The Rebarcheks were part of the government relocation project where they moved over 200 families from Minnesota, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Families that were really in tough shape. Things were tough. This was Depression time. And they told stories about the hopelessness that they faced back home. And so when the government came to them and said, if you want to move to the Matanuska Valley and start over, we'll support you. We'll help you get started. There'll be 40 acres of land. You'll have a house, a barn, some animals. Well, why wouldn't they jump at that? There was hope. There was a future for them.
The colonists came together as a community to share and celebrate what they had grown. And I think that's so important still for people to be able to do that. And so to have this part of the Alaska State Fair, it just is a natural fit. And that history is very important in the Matanuska Valley.
When Ray cleared this property, he had the intention of supporting his family in farming. We have taken it now just a step further and turn it into something that can be used by the community.
This area, this core area, is about 15 acres of farmland, and there are a lot of things that we wanted to do. And we ended up with the Rebarchek farm property, the past, present, and future. And that's exactly what we want to do. We want to conserve the past, we want to develop the present, and we also want to be creative about what our future is going to be.
So the Rebarchek farm was registered on the National Historical Registry in 1978, and the Alaska State Fair finished our acquisition of it in 2002. Since then, we've been working to rehabilitate the existing buildings, of which there were originally 10.
There's the historical component. There's this wonderful barn and this core area that contains a tremendous amount of history.
If we did it and did not share it, then the story kind of stops. So I think it's really important that the story continues.
The Alaska State Fair has come a long way since 1936, the original event, but even though the fairgoers are attracted by primarily the marquee events and the exciting things on the Borealis stage and the carnival and the great food that's at the fair, the heart of the fair is the same. We are still growing food, we're still involved with family projects, and we're still supporting the Mat-Su community and sustainable agricultural growth at the heart of our initiative.
Farming in Alaska, we have a short growing season, obviously. We need a very hardy rootstock. Some varieties we've been successful with in this area for quite a while, and others we're still learning about, and that's just the nature of agriculture and life in general, is that you just keep learning.
One of the biggest things that I can think that we want to show people is just observing nature and what's going on. I mean, coming to the farm all year round, showing even during breakup time how the flow of water moves through the land, showing things that they can work with and watch how the sunlight changes. Those are all really important aspects, especially up here in the Arctic when we have such a big difference between winter and summer.
As a part of the Alaska State Fair, we have a ton of interest in supporting our community. One of the biggest focuses is teaching what powerful work people were doing here in order to bring food into our community, and not just when the pioneers came and when the colonists came, but before that there was indigenous food. So teaching about all the ways that we have access to abundant food in Alaska and sharing the skills.
The reality is things are changing here in Alaska with our weather. So we want people to come in and not just learn about the goofy things we're growing, but also learn about the indigenous stewardship and the indigenous utilization of the plants that are already growing here. This space, they've created so much abundance within the space and growing in layers, getting people in the mindset of growing food within whatever space you have. The end goal is food security here in Alaska, and that's not going to be solved with just one tool or one means. It's not just going to be fields of potatoes, but if we can get people in the mindset of producing food within their influence, we're going to be better off as a community and as a society here in Alaska.
So my goal is to try to get high school agriculture in schools all across the state and show kids that there's an opportunity to use this greenhouse to their benefit. And the neat thing about it is it will be a hands-on learning experience where kids will actually have the opportunity to work in the soil and grow their own plants and learn the skills that are necessary to do that at a young age. So it has a lot of different facets that I think are going to be fantastic for the community.
We're taking a lot of knowledge from the local indigenous people. We'll be creating spaces where we put plants together called companion planting, where they work together. Some would fix nitrogen, others create a space where they feed off each other. This will mimic nature, and this is how our indigenous people here subsisted.
We're going to be using these species and celebrating these species and the culture of the first people here in Alaska, and we're going to be growing these all together in a system that complements each other and builds upon each other.
I think that it is important to recognize, and like as somebody who comes from both a farming background and a native background, I'm really excited to start moving into some of the integration of Western agriculture and indigenous agricultural practices and making them shake hands in a way that will be productive for everybody.
The colony story is an important part of Alaska. It's an important part that most people don't know about. The Rebarcheks were from Minnesota, so it actually is a good connection to the United States as well. Because this is not only Palmer history, but it's America's history.
So we want to celebrate back in the 1930s, people coming up here to Palmer and cultivating the land for the first time. We want to also celebrate what farming looks like nowadays in Alaska, and then what, leaning forward 10, 20, 30, 50 years down the road, what is it going to look like? We want to celebrate all of that. We want people to be able to come to one location and learn about that, an all-encompassing experience.
The future of this farm is everything about agriculture, everything about the history. When people come out here, they will see active farming, and you're going to be able to see where those types of plants are grown, where those vegetables come from.
Milking goats and feeding chickens and knowing what it takes to keep an animal alive and not just survive, but thrive.
And then also eventually development of a community center where weddings and community events can be held. It's a beautiful site with the mountains in the background, and it's going to create a lot of opportunities. It's going to be a neat asset for the community.
Yeah, this little section behind me is a place for Northland Pioneer Grange, and what we plan to do here is to have a little nursery plant area for small fruits and large fruits, plant materials in different stages of development, and learn about how those plants are suitable for our area. And then we hope to eventually get those plants out into schoolyards and public places.
We want everything that happens on the Rebarchek Farm Project here to go out into the community, to go to people's backyards, to people's front yards, to people's land, to people's window boxes in their apartment.
What I will enjoy most about coming to this is getting to talk to the people about their plants, their things that they're growing, and seeing for myself what's growing and how it grows. I love the idea of the sustainability of it and just trying new things.
So today we're having a show and tell session and actually dishing out some seeds. These folks are going to be trialing at their own properties to kind of determine the viability within our climate and around South Central Alaska. Education is the key to food security in Alaska. It opens their eyes to the potential, and that's really what we're trying to do here. We want people to come in and feel inspired to grow their own food.
Whether you have a large piece of land or a small backyard garden, there is something for everybody here.
The colonists, when they came here, they were given something and they made something of it. We have that same opportunity with anybody in the valley that wants to come out here.
I think that is sort of an indigenous mentality, is that we work with the land, and teaching people about that is just really important.
This is all about our community, and if you find your passion, come join us.